All right, I'm going to call our Community Development Authority for February 16th, 2022 to order. Roll call, please.
Brown,
Here?
Runge,
Here.
Zellner,
Yes.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Hertzberg,
Yep.
Tooze, Dasso.
Okay, first thing we have is minutes for approval.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Motion by
I'll
Kristen. Second. All in, any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Public comments, or anyone here would like to make? Okay, moving on. Presentations, local employer housing needs, Wanakee Community School District. And before you say anything, Tim, I'm just going to say, Brian, thank you for coming tonight. I know you have hardly any meetings that you have to attend, so to add one to your schedule was just what we needed to do for you. So thank you for coming tonight.
Is there a spot you'd kind of prefer me to kind
You can be wherever you want to be, actually.
All right, I'll kind of just work the area here. I guess appreciate the invitation. I hope to give you a little bit of information about our employees, and certainly welcome any kind of questions that you have to build off of what's in the slides or maybe not in the slides. And so my role as a Director of Human Resources for the school district, been in the school district for a really long time. This is 26 years for various roles, and so also a Wanakee resident now, town of Springfield, but not too far away. And so I feel like I could kind of share a little bit of history of our district and a little bit of where we're at right now. I can kind of jump in. Sorry about that. The formatting skewed on me there. We have approximately 619 employees, and an asterisk next to that, because one, in my 3 years as Director of Human Resources, we've never had been fully staffed. That's a dynamic number. It's a number we're seeking, but that changes. And we're broken out. We have 6 employee groups in the district. Administrative assistants, obviously straightforward. Classified staff, those are really school year type positions. Things such as assistants that work with students in classrooms, regular and special education. Certain roles such as crossing guards, various kinds of things that you think of supporting kids when they're in session. Custodial maintenance staff, teachers, that is a number that's, again, continues to grow for us as our enrollment grows every year. That's kind of our current, a little bit where we are currently. Administrative support staff is really a broad term. Probably the best way to think about them is they are contracted individuals, and they do a variety of things for us. Anything from school psychologists to social workers to interpreters, sign language or other languages, a variety of different things of that nature. And then administrators, that would be building and district level. What that 619 does not include is it doesn't include what we kind of term casual employees, and that's individuals that would work in co-curriculars, that would do roles at events, our aquatic center, for example, our performing arts center. It doesn't include our summer school, which is we employ about 200 people during summer school just for that. And really, any typical payroll we have varies of how many people are on the payroll. And so, minimally, 619 are considered regular recurring staff, but we on any given payroll will have somewhere between 700 and 900 people being paid for some of the work that they're doing in the school district. I know one of the big questions is what part of our staff live here in Wanakee, and so we have right now across our district, in our regular recurring staff, 45.6% of the staff have a Wanakee address. And I can kind of give you a little bit of more of a glimpse with the next slide. We have a number, obviously we have folks then that are living in a number of other places, just in order of decreasing percentage in our surrounding communities. We're about the next approximately 45% of our staff would live, and then there's 10% beyond that are scattered in different smaller percentages. You can hit the next slide a little bit. some of the other statistics, I guess, is that if we start to look at certain groups, 37.9% of our teaching staff are Wanakee residents. 62.3% of our hourly employees are Wanakee residents. And then if you start to consider it by age, that's really when we start to see some really big differences. If you look at staff that are less than 40 years old, that's 27%. A little over 27% of the staff live in Wanakee. And then as as our staff gets older, they are more likely to live in Wanakee. So about 62% of our staff are age 40 or older, and about 52% of them live in Wanakee. And that number, as I said, grows larger. So our 40-year-olds are about 50%, our 50-year-olds are about 55%, and anyone older than that is probably more, is 60%. And so it depending on age, you really start to see some differences in who's a resident. And I think there's one more slide. And this gives you a little bit of an indication of ranges of how much our employees make, which obviously, as you know, indicate what kind of ability they have to cover expenses such as housing. And within our different employee groups, I've kind of given a range of probably the lowest paying position or in level in a role in a group to the highest paid position in the highest classification. And so when we talk about levels, there are for example, 4 levels of administrative assistant by complexity. And so our level 4 administrative assistants would be probably have our most technical roles. They would typically require some additional specialized training to have that type of role, versus maybe a level 1 administrative assistant would have a basic educational background and professional skills. And then that within classified staff, the levels, 4 levels are really referring to different types of responsibility. The more responsibility they have with a student, typically it's tied to a student, the higher that level would be, the more experience they would have, the more they would make per hour. Custodial maintenance, again, basic custodian to our highest level, most skilled trades worker would be kind of that range. And then in our contracted staff, we have really 3 employee types: administration, admin support, and teachers. And we have those ranges, salary ranges kind of in there.
Is that taking in is that a full-time equivalent, or is it taking in if they're part-time,
That's an excellent question. And so within, like our administrative assistants, within our levels, our level 1 administrative assistants would be school year only positions. And so they would be full-time during the school year, but only 9 plus months. To our level 4 employees would be full-time, full-year employees. Classified staff, all of our classified staff are, when we have students, they're in action. So they would be part-time roles. Custodial and maintenance, those are all full-time roles. In our contracted staff, administration are all full-time, full-year. Administrative support, they have varying degrees of contracts from 200 days up to a full-time employee of 261 days. And then teachers are they have a 188-day contract, and that would not include some of those roles that have extended contracts and get additional days of 3 to 10 days per role.
So it's likely that a significant number of those are working somewhere else part of the year.
I think we would certainly have some of that. That would be likely. I think the other part I think we'd start to see, and we don't necessarily have a way to track that, would be that as for our hourly staff, where 62% or 63% live in Wanakee, they probably have a household income that's contributing to their costs of living and their ability to live here more than they're independently living here. Would be very likely. And then, just a little bit of an indication on the last slide of what, attracts employees to us based on what they share with us when we are connecting with them when they come in and what they tell us when they leave. I think, not surprisingly to Wanakee residents is that, the district does enjoy a very solid reputation, within our region and within our state. And so it is a district that people want to come work for. And that is the reason that we attract individuals. We also benefit from the fact that we are a great location. And that's why, we're very, depending on where a household, other household members live or work, we're very convenient to cooperate with other employers as well. And they tell us that they want to live here. They want to live in the community, and they have a family often that are here already. And so those are draws. What the employees tell us when they leave is they often, the most common reason they leave is they're seeking out an improved benefit package, whether that's wage or benefits. They also share that where they have a new opportunity might correspond better to where they live, or that unique opportunity is kind of a catch of lots of reasons why folks would leave an employment. So that's a little bit of a glimpse, and and I know that some of the other questions we were asked are employees that do they rent, do they own, and that's just not something that I really have an opportunity to decipher based on what we gather from them. And that was kind of my super brief snapshot. So I'm ready for any questions you want to hit me with.
So you're good with questions?
I am going to do my best.
This is a really nice group. What's your stance on masks? No, I'm not after that, okay? I just had that experience. It was not long ago. Today. No, thank you for this information. It's very helpful to all of us. I'm going to open it up for everybody to ask your questions first, and then I'll ask mine too. So, Tricia, any questions?
Yeah, do you feel in comparison to other districts that we have a higher retainage rate or a lower retainage rate, just kind of in this general area?
That's a great question. That is actually something that we are obviously trying to track and be attuned to. A little bit challenging in that not everyone wants to be as forthcoming with that information, from other districts. But my sense, and in the ones that we do communicate and collaborate with as we try to solve problems that we jointly face, I do think that in the teaching, in the contracted realm of our employees, our retention rate is probably better than most. We tend to be very stable. Right now, I don't know that of any employer that feels like they have the retention rate in the hourly staff that they wish they did. And it is absolutely a workers' market at this time, and in ultra competitive, between employers. And we are no different in that respect. In that the businesses here in Wanakee pull employees from us, and we pull employees from them, as do the school districts. And it's very challenging, I think, especially for an hourly employee to drive past employment opportunities. And so I think that is something we recognize that, that 62% that do live here, we probably have a great hold on them because of their residency. And that other 38 or 40%, those are the ones that we're probably losing and gaining more rapidly.
Okay, Kristen?
So that 38 to 40%, because that hourly employee and the entry-level employees, I think, are a lot of what we as a group often kind of think of and talk about. How do we get and retain those people in the community? Do you have a sense of where they're going or what they're they're leaving for 50 cents more or $1 more an hour probably, or $10 more an hour, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But are they would you have a sense of kind of like what we could do maybe instead of where they're going, what we could maybe do as a committee to help?
Well, that's a and I think that there's a synergy between the school district and the community itself.
Yeah.
I mean, there's and I think that there is our community, the draw that it has for families is strong. And I think the challenge that we have is people that aren't in a family unit per se, maybe don't have children, are probably the ones that we're all wondering how, what brings them here, how can we keep them here? Obviously, housing is essential to the city. And we have to recognize that, our hourly employees, as I kind of mentioned before, and even our starting teachers, they're not going to be able to purchase, a home here in Wanakee with the market that we have. And in some respects, they're going to have a challenge even finding probably higher end rental properties that they're going to be interested in. And how do we address that? Why? I wish I had something to say that would be profound to help, but I think it is it's a housing market, much like it's an employment market, right? And it's what are the options that people have to pick from, and how do we provide them the options that fit what they have what money they have available to spend.
Thanks. Yeah.
David?
Well, you kind of answered my question, because I was going to say, how often do you hear I can't afford to live in Wanakee?
We do hear that. I don't have a piece of data that I can share but we absolutely do hear that. I think that there are many opportunities, and again, our location helps us and hurts us in that regard, right? We are not far from less expensive places to live. And so if someone does want to work here, they can, they can find something that's in a reasonable commuting distance to get here. And they do. We see that. But yes, there are certainly times where folks, ask that question of, where's something that would be in this price range, and sometimes we're not able to point them in that direction.
Yeah, I think it's always been difficult. If you take a 20-minute circle around Wanakee, you got the east side, the west side, Middleton, Sun Prairie, Lodi, Dane, Poinette. There's so many places that are so close that, it's difficult. They have a lot of choices to live where they want to live. In the case of a teacher, it's not, 12 months out of the year, it's 9 months out of the year, so it's gives them a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we also have recognized that for some individuals in the business of education, they value not living where they work. And because there is a chance then to that anonymity that they can have when they go out to a restaurant, or go to the grocery store. Some folks really value that, and other folks value the sense of community that known and being known. And so I don't think that you would find in even the most diverse housing market all employees wanting to live where they work. That's just not what everyone wants.
I'll pass.
You'll pass. So, how has recruiting been? I know for a long time, we have the reputation, as you said, our district reputation, so teachers want to come here. And I recall days where there'd be an opening and there'd be, 300, 400 applicants for that one position.
Yeah.
Is that still the situation, or has that changed drastically?
That's not the situation. I think we still are pulling probably larger applicant pools than most school districts. There's a lot of dynamics at play. One, the number of individuals going into certified educational roles has dropped and has been declining for a number of years, and so there are less teachers out in the market. What our recruitment has, we've had to become, we certainly have had to become more active than we used to have. We could sometimes, the benefit of just, we'd post a position on what's called WeCan, which is kind of the Universal Education Network. We'd put it out there and we just harvest the opportunities that come from it. Well, those, you know, it's still the case in a number of roles, for sure. But, you know, harder to fill roles, that, you know, we're now, you know, we're searching for individuals that have those certifications. We're proactively reaching out to them. You know, we're offering retention bonus. We're offering referral bonuses. You know, we're tapping into professional networks to try to find individuals. And so, you know, in general, we're in a better position filling certified roles than we are in filling hourly roles. Hourly roles, it's been a never-ending challenge. Certified roles, it's been moments of challenge, and just not you know, the bushel basket of applicants doesn't exist anymore. Now maybe you're looking at, you know, applicant pools 20 to 40% of the size that they were at one time. But there are still pools.
So within that recruitment process, when you're talking to the teachers that want to come here, have they ever said, well, we don't think we can accept because we can't afford to live here? Has that been something that's been in that recruitment process?
The other part that has changed in recruitment is that it is now a negotiation in almost all contracted positions. Like that was even maybe 15 years ago unheard of. Now it's norm. I mean, and so certainly I have heard that because I am kind of that person that has all those conversations with individuals. I have heard people using that as a reason why they needed a bigger number. And we, you know, have a couple opportunities. We have lost candidates to other districts or had them withdraw an acceptance after trying to find housing. That's still relatively rare, you know, and I would say that I can think of in the last year and a half, less than 5 times that's happened, but it has happened. You know, but I also don't know folks that, you know, that don't give a reason why they step away, what their reasons are. I mean, I don't get a lot of data from folks that don't come into the door.
What about from your peers in other districts, especially here in this region? And I imagine as you're competing for this talent, you're going farther and wider with your searches. Have any of them had any type of housing or relocation incentive as part of their negotiations package that you know of?
To my knowledge, housing, you know, relocation is not something that's done a lot in the educational world. I think what you're seeing is that what we're doing a lot of now is maybe things that private business were doing a little before, like, you know, sign-on bonuses, you know, retention bonuses, referral bonuses. Those are things that were not necessarily brand new at all in the private employing world. Now schools have started to employ things like that. We've not, at least not yet seen many area districts, to my knowledge, any area districts go into that, you know, pay for people to come and relocate. I would say that if it were happening, it could potentially be happening in some of the upper level district administrative positions, superintendents. You might see things of that nature because those can tend to be very national searches. Probably almost all the rest still tend to be very regional, so you don't get a lot of that as much.
I just have a question, may not even relate to housing at all, but we have our district reputation.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Are these listed kind of in order or just?
Yes, yeah.
So, number one reason is district reputation, that the people come here. The reason they lose or leave is because of better pay and benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there a correlation to that, is what I'm getting at? Are we, because we have this reputation, they come here, they're known to be a Wanakee teacher now.
Mm-hmm.
They have a leverage to go elsewhere at that point. It's like a resume builder almost, to be
Sure.
in Wanakee, where they can maybe go closer to where they grew up, or whatever they
Yeah.
want. Is that
Absolutely.
something that happens?
That's, you know, we will absolutely, you know, to be able to go out and interview and have that on their is very helpful. And it is actually really helpful to individuals that want to make that move from a teaching role to administrative role. Because there, you have had experience in a highly successful district, a high-performing district, in basically every metric that you could be looking for in terms of student performance. That is very helpful. I would say if we're talking about hourly employees, it's really not in the hourly world. I mean, where you worked before is almost of no concern
Sure.
to any of us. And so that is probably more of a pure, I can get more by going somewhere else. And I think what you also will find is that, in the early stages of a teaching career, that is when individuals are most mobile, right? Because that's, if you think, what keeps someone in it's usually a family or a spousal tie that's gonna keep you somewhere, versus if you're, more independent, you can move to what whims you might have, or to get to closer to home, or to get to where your relationship is. Those are, younger employees are more mobile employees. That's just, if you kind of the rule of thumb in the educational world, if you can keep someone beyond year 4, you've probably got them long term. But if it's those first 4 that's when they're on the move.
So with your statistics that you showed, and I fit the over 40 crowd.
Mhm.
My wife's a teacher too, in case you guys didn't know. Here in the district, do you see a change or a correlation to, I look back 30 years, housing in Wanakee to today, and I know how much we made at that time, and we were both teachers, and so that was a $19,000 a year starting salary at that time. And based on what you showed, it's a $43,000 at the very base.
Yeah, that's the beginning.
Where
Yeah.
you're at. So those teachers coming in, so we had double income. So the ones that are single, coming in at 43,000, they're basically at what we were at double at that point. And I think our housing, what I'm pointing out to our committee, is our housing has gone up at a much more rapid rate
Mhm.
than what the pay has within that. So I would look and say, what can we do, in your opinion, to help with your situation right now? Because we want the best of the best coming for our school districts too,
Mhm.
for the teachers, for the support staff, everyone, administration, you name it. So what role we can play in that, we would absolutely want to assist in.
Well, and I think the recognition is, if you're thinking of that beginning of the career individual, I mean, they're just not financially at a point where they're going to be purchasing a home, right? I mean, that's just not that's just not the reality that they have. And they don't have they have not created that financial history. They don't have that background behind it. I mean, those are the individuals that are looking for, high quality and affordable rental properties. And that's their, that's how they're coming into the housing market. And it's, as they do move, in a roughly, what a beginning teacher is about like that 43,000. That's no experience, first job out of school, kind of a teacher. You're roughly moving about $2,000, give or take about $2,000 a year for a year of teaching and education. And so, it does not take long for someone to get established so where they can start to consider, can I consider if I've been a good financial steward of my money, that they can start to think about more stable, permanent housing. But it takes some time, right? And that's going to be into their career before they do that, and it probably involves them doubling their income, right? And that I would, again, I'm not able to give data or prove that that's the case, but I do think that our many the vast majority of our Wanakee residents would be here with a spouse or partner, but unless they participate in our health insurance plan and they have I just don't know. I don't know that about my employees for sure.
Go ahead,
Curious, as far as teachers, what percentage, is the teacher the breadwinner in the family? Or let's say if they have a spouse, is the spouse, making a higher income?
I would probably flip that question to your committee. You would probably know that better, like the average household income of Wanakee. I don't know that number. So I would, you know, I would say that kind of that range of, you know, the teaching range that I provide you is really, you know, first, you know, brand new out of school teacher to someone that's, you know, nearing 30 years in their career, you know, that is making about $80,000 as a teacher, you know, salary. And so you know, that a household, what's the household income? I don't know what that is here.
I think it's low 90s.
Salary with great benefits.
Yeah, oh, absolutely,
Put that into
right,
it.
I mean, you have to, you cannot separate the two when you talk the educational world. You know, wage, salary, and benefits, it's that package is what is financially what brings people to the educational world, right? I mean, that has been the case forever. The benefits are better than private employers, the wage is not as competitive.
So I just have, my last comment is really, and I don't know if we have a solution to this or not, but I think of those teachers that are coming in, that seems like the challenge area really, where they're coming out of school, that 23 to 30-year-old range, as they start. Most of them probably these days are coming out, and I don't know this for sure, with some sort of student loan debt. Granted, we have a pass right now, that's been going on here with COVID, but they come with that debt, so it's very hard for them. If you throw a car into the mix too, with their student loan debt, at this point, that's a lot of their revenue being taken from that. So, I just think of that single teacher that's coming in, fresh out of college with potential debt and not a lot to their name at that point. How we assist in that situation, I don't, that's an area, and that's just teachers I'm talking about right now.
Sure.
But it's others too, with other industries. So,
My only comment to that is, anybody who's 23 to 30 isn't gonna wanna live in Wanakee, they're gonna wanna live in Madison,
maybe,
where the activity is.
maybe.
They don't wanna live in a, you know, rural community, they wanna be downtown where everything's happening.
Well, and you know, and actually, I would say I have thought many of the same things, but there are new apartments that are not hurting for residents. And if you watch those individuals walk out in the morning when it's time, they're not, you know, they're not our age. You know, they're young people and they have chosen to live here. And I don't, you know, and I'll also say that those are, even some of those options are not available to a first-year teacher working on their own income. I mean, that's out of their monthly range for many of the reasons Chris brought up, like, I mean, student loan, car loan, you know, try to pay for groceries. Yeah.
And if they're a single parent, it's even more difficult.
Yeah.
You know, in that
Yeah.
situation, so. Thank you. I mean, thank you for taking your time to come here tonight. I really appreciate it. And this feedback and this information, if we can have these slides, are you gonna be able to have them for us? Is it okay for us to?
I've got them.
Yeah, I think I shared them
We
with
can
you guys
share
and they're
those out
open.
to the committee, so we have those, and, because I think it's just good data for us to have. But thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the invite.
We're doing our best to figure this
Do you mind if I
situation out.
ask one question?
No.
And this is, okay.
Go ahead, Tim. Go ahead, Tim.
You when you mentioned the word in your, what people want, you said, which I think is fairly universal, high quality, affordable. And I'm thinking anecdotally, again, when I was younger, there were choices out there for housing, but they may not necessarily be high quality. I think that's a market thing, if you will, where the market provides the granite countertops and the stainless and all that stuff, and those are things that add to the price point of rent. If, and just more of a gut check probably, because I don't think there's data on this, but if there were alternate housing choices that may not be as high quality, but were affordable, do you think that would be an incentive to retain people in this market?
And I could not give you like district data to support that. Certainly, one of the things that I try to do is you know, stay tuned to what's out in the human resources world, and they talk about, you know, generational work, and so our this is kind of Gen Y and tail end of millennials are kind of those folks that we're talking about right now. it's not so much it's not the fanciness of the play. Their value is, they value experience. You know, what those researchers would tell us is that they're looking for experiences outside of, you know, what makes them their money and where they live. They want to spend their money, they want to have adequate cash to go out and do things as opposed to buy things. And so I do think, based, you know, I jump from point A to point B on that one, for them, that that research would say that maybe that is more important to them. It's just a stable, quality place to live, and, you know, then having more income to do other things with, or, you know, just having income that's after expenses. But, you know, that would be perhaps where they'd fall.
I'd say I've got a lot of like mid-20 somethings in my life right now, and so when they're looking for apartments, they are looking to save money, but in ways that I would not have predicted, like an apartment with a gym and a rooftop garden means that they don't need a gym membership and they can have their friends over to entertain in their apartment. And I see this decision and I'm then thinking, so we need apartments with rooftop gardens and gyms, you know, like, oh my gosh. So it's just an interesting challenge that you both bring up, yeah.
It's a somewhat, we'll get there, it's somewhat leading question as we start
Okay.
drifting into the missing middle conversation.
Awesome.
Brian, thank you.
Thank you.
Please leave.
Thank you, Brian.
I know you have a lot of these meetings.
Actually, tonight was a meeting. I was there, we were, you know, I won't out anybody, but we had a retirement presentation tonight, and so we had about 100 employees attending that, and so I was running from one to the other. So
I appreciate it.
talk about people leaving to people coming in. So I appreciate that.
Sounds good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Gary, you don't think that we're fun and the 25-year-olds want to hang out with us?
I'm just listening to my kids. Who said, I would never live in Wanakee.
That's what you just said. I was listening to my kids. It's a scary thing. Okay.
I
Mine
think they're
too.
less interested in the, you know, they don't need the marble countertops, but what they want is, you know, if a place is built economically, that it's maintained, so that it's clean
the
and
issue.
usable, you know,
Yeah.
that's the big problem, you know, you gotta, they hardly know marble countertops, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they just need clean and good
And
repair.
safe,
Yeah,
and safe,
yeah.
and, you know.
So interestingly enough, apartment owners will say, I want to put granite in because it's going to last
Yeah, forever.
longer. And I don't have the repairs and maintenance that I'm going to have, that they don't. So there's that balance that they're looking for too, with that, as planning it. I mean, downtown with student housing, they'll want it to make sure that they can support the weight of people being on top of it. They'll go that far.
Well,
I mean, it's interesting that they have to do all that, but it's
Probably
just,
not wrong
it's just a
with
fact of the
Lessons
situation.
learned.
sometimes it's penny wise, pound foolish, because you put a marble countertop on a cheap cabinet, and the cabinet doesn't last, and now you got, you know.
Agreed. Yeah. All those things are taken in, so it's interesting, dynamic that's going on there and in play, so. All right, so Tim, do you have a report to give us?
I do. I will try and be brief, but there's a couple things I wanted to touch on. So up on the screen, a few things, update on TID 10. Just wanted to make you aware of an article from the municipality and a report, housing tool report regarding zoning. Very briefly, Al asked about redoing some of those figures on that hypothetical housing fund. I can share those. And then lastly, just make you aware of, if you aren't already, some housing reports that are mandated by statute and where those are on our website. So first, let me back up to TID 10. We continue to work with the developers who are proposing the creation of TID 10. We were told, or are told, that the preliminary information from the traffic study will be available this week, which should be the key piece of information to move that process forward, which means that our target date is hopefully April, but we're not going to commit to that yet until we get this information, because that will likely lead to some questions being asked of the village board. So the timing of that is going to also play into when the pro forma is ready and our financial consultant, Ellers, will have that information within enough time to give you lead time to study that report, the statutory meeting notice requirements and so forth. So our hopeful goal is April, to have the public hearing for that creation of TID 10. So that's it for right now. We'll have more after the latter part of this week and when we get that data on the traffic study. Switching over to, does anyone get the municipality, the magazine? Okay, so some of you may be aware of this already. In the February issue, the most recent issue of the municipality, there was an article by, I believe, Kurt Watinsky, giving the readers a heads up about this new zoning guide for affordable housing. Well, this was just released today. So this zoning guide is now out there for everyone to see. And what it is a work that involved several communities, 5 communities in Wisconsin. Waunakee was one of them, that was involved to help create this guide. And there are workshops that the league is going to be hosting coming up very soon, as you can see next week. These are free. They're throughout the state, three communities throughout the state. Registration is limited, but just wanted to make you aware of that, and I can certainly forward on the information. I think some of that might be in the league. I know this information is on the league's website now, but again, just wanted to make you aware of that. The
Is that
document.
Is that something you think we should attend?
Uh,
Or is that,
the
information
target,
you're gonna
yeah,
use?
the target audience is elected officials and staff, planning staff, those consultants maybe who would be responsible for assisting in amending zoning codes. I think most staff and most consulting companies already know the mechanics of doing that and probably know a lot of the issues, and I've put those up on the screen right now. So, but the target of this is really amending zoning codes incrementally to address affordable housing. And so some of these things may look familiar. They may be, you may have seen some of these in the Housing Task Force report. But included in this study are, for example, such things as allowing multifamily housing as permitted uses in single-family zoning districts, realigning lot widths, lot areas to match historic patterns favoring smaller and narrower lots, reducing setbacks to historic distances to allow greater use of existing lots, allowing accessory dwelling units by right for all single-family zoning districts, permitting residential uses in commercial districts, reducing or eliminating parking minimums, and assessing and streamlining subdivision workforce housing application process. So these are just some of them. And again, these are recommendations, they're not requirements, but if these are some things that this community would be interested in moving forward, obviously, that would be, worthy of discussion, again, with the intended goal of addressing affordable housing. Now, what I can tell you is, and Fritz and I have spoken very briefly about this, but with the second to last bullet point, we're likely to bring forward a parking ordinance change next month. For the last several multifamily projects, we've been allowing relaxation of our code in those areas that are planned developments. And rather than doing it that way, which is a way, we think there may be a time, now may be the appropriate time to just do that and incorporate that so developers of those projects don't have to ask for those variations. It's just, this is a value we have, here is a possible way to help. It's certainly not going to solve the affordable housing situation, but all these things, again, are meant to do incremental steps toward moving in that direction. So just wanted to make you aware of that. Our planning consultant has been working on this for a little while and has a draft, and so we'll likely be bringing that to the Plan Commission next month. So just more of an FYI. Moving on. Oh, so I guess I'm going to go back for a second. Sorry. So your choice if you want to attend those. I'm not sure if they're going to be recorded or not. I imagine there's gonna be a fair bit of of demand for those, so I can check with folks from the league and let you know.
I may go to Oshkosh. I was looking at my calendar once, but the Oshkosh one might be something I could attend.
So I think, they're free, but you gotta register,
Yeah.
and so make sure you jump on, go to the league's website to register. Okay, switching gears, we saw this last time. This is the hypothetical, and I need to underscore that, bold that, emphasize that. This is all very hypothetical. This was the chart we looked at last time. I would say there are three, and only three really knowns on this, and that is the $510,000 number. That was the initial increment created. The 326 number that was allocated toward the Village on Main project, and then the balance. Everything else is hypothetical. So my suggestion is, rather than narrowly diving down the rabbit hole of the arithmetic, I think the dog should wag the tail in that before we go here in great detail, we should develop those policies, so then we can determine what the appropriate allocations are. But to the charge given to me, I think this is what Al was referring to last month. So what this chart, and it's kind of hard to see, so I'll read the numbers, but what this chart shows is that original increment amount, that 510, and then using the 75-25 split as allowed by state law, this is what that balance would look like if nothing were given away, right? So the initial 75-25 split, but something was given away or allocated, I should say, in Wanakee, so that was the 326, which leaves a fund balance of 183. However, if we choose to undertake that 75-25, what that really means is 75% of the dollars of that initial, and then taking the Cone Esri project into account would mean a balance of 56,000 that could be used for affordable housing, and the remainder, the 127.5, could be used to improve housing stock. And again,
So let me just clarify for you on that, Tim. So the 127 and 56 could all be used for affordable housing.
absolutely,
At this
Yep.
point,
So
only
again-
127,000 can be used for
great
housing
point,
stock.
great point, and that's why I say, we can arithmetic things to death, but this is hypothetical, until we start creating those policies of how to use the dollars. So, but anyway, I just wanted to show that I did do what I think Al was directing me to do, and I just wanted to point out too, so this is the slide, and looking at if those TIDs were extended by, what did we say, 2027, 2028, and let's say no other dollars were expended, we would have in that pool $3.5-ish million, and that number didn't change from last time. But, so it's, again, like I say, too early to dive way into the arithmetic until we start getting these policy directed. So I'd be happy to share this with you, but just want to let you know that I did undertake that exercise. Lastly, from my report, some of you may be aware of these reports. So a few years ago, the legislature passed a law that required all municipalities create these housing reports and post them to their website. So the village has done that. These are the covers to our most recent one. They were required to be posted on January 31st of the calendar year, and they really look at the previous year. And so these two reports are both on the community development webpage under the housing tab, and the housing fee report hasn't changed a lot. We haven't done a lot, just a quick FYI, the housing fees haven't changed a lot from the last couple of years. Our park fees have increased. I think there's an inflation or a CCI index for some of those fees, park fees, but our general building permit fees haven't increased in a number of years, and I think that's a thing that communities can do to manage housing affordability to a degree. but obviously that's just one little piece of it. So anyway, just want to make you aware of those reports, and so we're in compliance with state statute for those. Any questions at all on that? Otherwise, I'll kick it over to Todd here as we lead off our discussion. So we've asked Todd to facilitate our discussion on the possible metrics and criteria for the housing policies. And I guess I'd like to start with that and going back to the lead-in of, what is the task? And the task is to create housing policies to be used when evaluating requests for allocation of those affordable housing fund dollars. And then ultimately, those policies are going to be recommended to the village board. I think it's important to remember that the outcome of this isn't going to be that these policies are necessarily set in stone, but they're going to be guidelines to be used so that when someone comes in with a development proposal, you will be able to say, yep, this is what we want to see, and therefore we're willing to allocate dollars. Or if it's not, you can say similar. Well, how many boxes does it check, and so forth. So I think in the context of where we go this evening, that's the main target. And I think when we have that discussion, it's really looking at, and I think Kristen mentioned this a few meetings ago, is hopefully we start by targeting specific policy priority areas. And then with that, I guess I will turn it over to Todd, if you're ready for me to turn it over to you.
Yeah, first thought is, boy, you're in better hands than you used to be.
All in favor, say aye. Sorry, Todd.
And Chris hired me tonight to be your facilitator 11 years ago. A lot of times a facilitator can kind of be, come in and maybe push people around. You don't have to worry about it because you're done. You do your job when you're out. For me, my whole career depends on this. Anyway, I think when it comes down to it is what do you want to spend your money on? If there's a core question in this. But before we do that, I also want to do one quick note. Happy birthday, Tim.
Oh, happy birthday.
Tonight is Tim's birthday, so
Happy birthday.
for your birthday, I got you one flip chart. So, I'm going to get around here.
Do you want to pull that out front?
I can.
Will the camera be able to get to it? Keith, if you put
Keith
this
is
facing
very
us?
agile with his filming, but
Oh yeah, that camera right there can get it.
how can I put this here?
Perfect.
Oh, Nigel won't be able to see
I'll
that.
move.
All right.
Perfect.
So I'm going to try to help with, it's kind of called an affinity exercise, but essentially it's a really bossy way to get you guys to agree on things. So I do need to request that you allow me to be bossy tonight to get us towards agreement. So that's, the way this is going to work is just really talking generally about funding priorities. Let's not overthink it to start. But on your papers, grab 3 pieces of paper, and on each one identify what you feel ought to be a funding priority. Now I know you have Sharpies, so you might want to layer the papers.
You are bossy.
So we don't have.
No, he just doesn't want to buy new tables.
So your task is to complete 3 thoughts as to what you feel should be a funding priority out of our
And as I say, keep in mind the context, affordable housing. So hopefully it's not, we need more industrial development.
we're talking about the supply of funding that we've contributed to the Affordable Housing Fund. Write your comment in a way that won't necessarily lead to other questions from other members. In other words, be clear. Try to make it clear. And the way it'll work is I'll have each of you report out on one of your items. I'm not going to ask for conversation on it. All I'm going to ask is whether you understand it or don't understand it. And if there's a don't understand it, then we'll clarify. But the goal is, with what you write, we will have universal understanding, and then I'll work to group those together up here. So your task is 3 funding priorities under the category as Tim explained. And just give me some eye contact or a thumbs up when you feel like you've completed your task. Should have some background music. Most good facilitators provide background music. So it's your birthday, play your favorite song. Happy birthday, maybe?
You see the Jones commercial on the Super Bowl? Tom Jones.
Are we all the
I'm
same?
trying to think of different.
That's good, like if we all land on the same three things, then we're done. We're all like, great, let's go get pizza.
So for anybody who's maybe watching the recording for NILA 2, one question might be, why ask CDA members what they think the funding priority should be? Well, what I'm hoping is as CDA members, you're sort of sitting here embodying the scope of work that's encompassed, frankly, several years of village effort, and you've been digesting the information as it's been shared up to you. We've brought in, who was the consultant with the Wisconsin Housing? Oh, what's that?
Not Rebecca Giroux.
No, I'm blanking on her name, but we brought in a professional to walk us through some practical things. We've looked at case studies. Tim has brought you information. We've even had presentations from professionals in other communities who are doing this work. So you are sitting, and I'm not telling you this so you know this, but more the camera, wherever the camera is, so those watching know that you have put work into understanding the issues both locally and regionally. You've been educating yourself to be in a position to make good statements, sound statements on this issue. Now, with that said, as a reminder too, this work is going to exist as a recommendation to the village board. So this doesn't end with the CDA. You're going to be providing a recommendation to the 7-member village board. So with that said, we're going to go this way, then this way to complete those 3 things, just so you know the order we're going to go. The task, Tricia, is to read your item. Then without further discussion, I'll check for thumbs. If it's all thumbs up, that means everybody understands, and I can add it to the board.
Okay, so we want to pick like in our priority of what we listed.
Yeah, and I would say no need to put it in a priority rank either. Just pick one and start.
Okay. Helping improve or maintain the integrity of Waunakee's older housing stock, maybe in a tiered fashion, like over 50 years old, over 75, or over 100 years old.
Understanding? Okay, good, thank you. Kristen?
Mine could go with that. Were we supposed to do our first priority?
No order, no
Not
order
okay.
necessary.
A home repair fund for lower income residents that is also doubling as an emergency home. So when somebody's suddenly got a leaked pipe and they can't afford the repair.
Okay, just for my clarification, Trish's was about helping improve and maintain integrity. Yours is more an emergency?
Home repair fund for lower income residents.
Okay,
But that also serves as an emergency fund, so we're not, so it could be that it could swing into.
So you don't have an age of home tied
No,
to this?
no, but I'm
Okay.
imagining that most of our repairs are gonna be in the homes that you outlined, in my mind.
does everybody understand?
On the repair fund.
See if you understand. Looking for thumbs, Gary? Gary, okay, in Portugal, thank you. All right, Chris?
So I'm taking this one out because it's already been stated.
No, I want them, I'm gonna be grouping, so, yep, I want everybody, I want all of them.
I'll go for a different one then. Down payment for first-time buyers, whether we use a loan or a grant, or put a program in place.
Do we have understanding?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Dave?
I hope I understood the question. My focus was to say that we should be focusing on family affordability, more of the 2 to 3 bedroom type things rather than efficiencies and, you know.
Okay, so your funding priority is family dwellings,
Right.
family dwelling specific. Is that understood? Thumbs. Sorry, I get to be boss. I get to be boss. Does everybody understand?
Houses?
Oh.
All the above? All the above, okay. Thumbs up.
All your thumbs up? Okay. Gary?
Kind of follows, I just said, loans for current core residents, core city residents for improvements.
Okay, is there understanding? The only clarification I'd ask is, can you define core?
Homes that are, do I put an age on it? Do I put I would say homes over 40 years old.
Okay, so you're not, when you're talking about core, you're not talking about a geography. You're talking about a,
Well, I can, but I think it's harder to, I thought it was easier just to say 40 years old than it was trying to develop a direction in town here.
okay, all right. Otherwise, I think there was understanding. Okay. Jeff?
I got facilitate education and access to low-income prospective residents to increase their chances of utilizing existing programs.
Does anybody want that read again?
Mm-hmm.
It's facilitating access to existing programs, to being somewhat of a director of people to get them to understand, because we heard several programs that are out there. If Wanakee help them find those programs and help them with that access and understanding of those programs, I think we may give people a hand up.
So I think we understand that. My question, is that something you think we need to fund? Because we're specifically talking about what we're
It's
seeking
gonna
to
take
fund.
some staff or somebody.
Okay, so you're actually talking about
Somebody's
funding
gonna
staff.
be a focal point for that kind of work.
Okay. Understood?
Is it eligible use of funds?
Sorry?
Is it an eligible use of funds?
Elderly?
Eligible.
Eligible.
Darn math.
Darn math. Tim, do you happen to know whether that itself is eligible under the,
Well, it depends, I would say qualified, it depends, because if we're going to just talk about programs in general, that's not necessarily for income qualified individuals. But if you're talking about those, the income qualified, then I would say that would fall under the definition of affordable housing. So if you want to target it in general, or do you want to, is your target more
I
toward the
specifically said low
affordable?
income.
You don't, okay, yep, so yes, I would, okay, so affordable under the affordable.
all right, Jeff, you're up again.
Well, it's one that's already been said, and I didn't have a neighborhood or anything, but funding support, loans and grants for property improvement of existing housing.
Understood. Okay. Gary?
Loans for current apartment owners to upgrade their existing, units. Make sense?
Landlords, you're talking about? You said apartment owners,
Yes.
right? So not apartment dwellers, you're talking about, that actually,
Owner
okay,
of apartments.
landlords.
Landlords.
Got it, okay. Understood?
Mm-hmm.
David?
Well, mine's to duplicate, I said improve existing stock that is aging based on loans and grants.
Understood? Chris?
Yep, I'm good.
Oh, no, I meant your turn.
Oh, land purchase / land bank, for, used to be used for affordable housing.
Understood?
Okay.
Remember, a thumbs up doesn't mean you agree, it means you understand. Kristen?
A land bank or land purchase for a light tech project where we can put ourselves in the driver's seat. So, and something of like grass camp quality.
Oh, Gary, go ahead.
Explain that again.
So a land purchase or a land bank for a low-income housing tax credit project where we can put ourselves in the driver's seat, where we're soliciting bids and saying, we want something for this many units that looks like this, that
It's on this piece, and we provide the property?
we have the land set aside.
Set aside.
So, yeah, and whether they purchase it from us or we defray some of the costs, but we get to say what we want it to look like
Okay.
and,
Okay, understood. All right.
yeah.
Tricia?
I think mine somewhat goes along with that, but it's maybe more of a zoning thing also. To have more integrated options for senior or affordable housing within new developments to benefit, so they can benefit from the neighborhood amenities like pools, parks, athletic, kind of like you said, park land.
Go through it one more time, as succinct as you can, see if we can get the concept that's understood.
And I don't know how exactly this is achieved, but somehow in new developments, having designated areas allocated for either senior housing or more affordable housing, so that there's more of a integrated neighborhood, so that everyone benefits from from the amenities of new projects.
Okay, I'm singing, that's odd. Heads nod, that's odd. All right, Tricia, oh,
Can I jump in with a quick clarifying? So you say affordable housing or senior housing. In my mind, I think those are two potentially different things, because you can have senior housing that's high-end,
Right.
that has nothing to do with affordability, that's.
I was thinking of two housing needs that we seem to have a demand for and not enough of. And so that's seniors there too, but so I didn't want to leave that off the table.
Yeah, affordable could include seniors,
Right.
but specific targeted towards senior may
And for
not.
for funding, it would probably have to be some level of affordability, whether it's senior or not senior, but.
Okay, I was just curious,
Mhm.
okay.
and I think generally you've indicated that our discussion on these funding priorities should all relate to affordable. Now,
Well, so,
no,
qualified, but.
For this would be falling under, let's say, that 75% requirement. Now granted, there's 25% available for improving housing stock, but that relaxes some of the affordability components necessarily. With that said, Tricia, you get to go one last time.
Mixed use and more connectivity within commercial and industrial areas of the village. So just having more.
Last part?
Just having more mixed-use options, because they tend to have the ability to be more affordable housing
Yeah,
options
okay.
within commercial areas or mixed-use areas, closer to the jobs or closer to the businesses.
Okay. Understood? Any
I
clarification?
understand.
Okay. Kristen?
Down payment assistance for community helpers who are employed in Wanakee, first-time buyers or those that are at least 5 years from the last time they owned a home. And I saved that last part because there's the Dane County Fund, has it structured that way.
Can you read it once more?
So down payment assistance for community helpers that are employed in Wanakee. So I would personally target like teachers, firefighters, even though we have a volunteer fire department, if you're volunteer at the fire department, maybe you're eligible, police officers, public servants,
Okay, I was wondering what community helpers.
yeah,
With that clarification. Understood?
yeah.
Okay. Chris?
Nursing assistants.
So mine's just the first one, which was housing maintenance fund. I would make sure that's income dependent, and I'd like it to be a green situation if it's all possible, that we're doing with it.
Ah.
Housing maintenance fund, income dependent and green. Housing maintenance.
So if they're putting in a certain type of windows or whatever it might be, or they need, or if it's a furnace, or whatever.
I saw it.
Efficiencies, it meets efficiency ratings.
Okay, David?
To be aware of location issues for affordable housing, walking versus driving, you know, if you can build all these inexpensive apartments, but if they're on the fringe of town, they're not near anything.
Aware of location issues for affordable housing. So are we again talking about, like staff level resources to assist people?
I'm talking about improving housing stocks that's more centrally located, where people can walk to things rather than having to drive, rather than building everything out on the fringe of town. You know, if all your affordable housing is in apartment buildings that are, you know, half a mile from.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a geographic issue for you. This
Yeah.
is a locational issue.
It's difficult to, because things are already built, but I think you gotta be aware of it.
Okay. Gary?
I kind of ran out of things, and, you know, I said integrated senior housing and development, and I don't know how you make that happen. I mean, it's difficult to do that, but, yeah, I'm just trying to give seniors more choice in a housing stock than we currently have.
Okay. Integrated senior housing. Okay. And Jeff?
I have, similar to Kristen's, a little different take on it. Down payment assistance, cooperating with local businesses in a matching program.
Understood?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, as a reminder, the thumbs weren't about agreeing, it was understanding, because now our task is to take these items, which we all agree that we understand, and work to assemble, we're gonna assemble some strings. We're gonna put some common elements together, try to identify some themes. Now, whether today's the day to do this or not, this might be a future task. Once we identify some common themes, because let's agree, there's no way we can come into our first version of this affordable housing tax fund or housing fund and accomplish everything. Impossible. There might be a lot of great ideas, but let's do a couple of things really well and not try to solve everything. I'm seeing agreement on that. That's why the goal of trying to get to some common elements, common areas of agreement, and then once we have strings, let's say we have 3 or 4 strings, then we can take each string and dive into programs that would address that common string of funding priorities. And again, whether that's tonight, Tim, or you take the strings, bring in programs that you've learned about or we've learned about, and put it in a document that we can then chew on next time, that's something we can decide, or maybe we'll get started on it.
Sounds like you need a bigger board, because you'd want to move those around and.
Yeah,
put them
that would be,
together.
yeah, that would be easier, but we'll do the best we can.
Okay,
We'll
all right.
do the best we can with this.
So suggestion.
So, go ahead.
I think we can certainly start this tonight, because I heard several common themes.
Mhm.
And I think, but perhaps in identifying those, a way to frame these is to say, we will use affordable housing dollars to, for example, provide loans for older housing stock. So
Well-
that one, as an example.
That's a good goal to get to tonight. So what I'm going to suggest is we make the strings first, and then we have a game of wordsmithing together, okay? To then give each string a appropriate title, okay? Let's do that, all right? So essentially what you're going at, but first let's do these strings so I can organize this. And this is going to be, this is interactive, so I want you to help me. Just go ahead and call out, I'm going to actually, right here, we'll actually do this together, but I'm going to go down the line. Each of you are going to get a crack at helping me make the string. So Tricia, give me one item I should connect to another.
Older housing stock.
Okay, where is it?
There was a couple of them.
Just pick one and help me connect
I
it.
don't want to pick my own, that doesn't seem fair.
No, it's fine. Just help me move on this. I want to do it myself.
Yeah, I think that's a starting point, because I heard a couple other ones say that was similar. Right below that one. Right,
Where?
second down. That one.
Okay, so this is helping improve integrity of older housing stock. Find another one for me.
Right in the middle, Home repair fund.
Housing maintenance fund?
Down one.
Home repair.
Right
Home
there.
repair fund.
That's, both of those are.
I had an orange one up there. that
And
I-
which one?
Housing maintenance fund, that's the same.
Housing maintenance, is that the same?
So, yep.
Okay. Where else are we?
I had an orange one that I gave you. I can't read it from here.
I think it's underneath that one on the far, left.
on the far side.
Yeah, there, right there, underneath that.
Yep, that's it.
Funding, support, loans, grants, property improvements of existing housing stock, okay? Are there any others? We're gonna get through all these, and if we uncover one later, we'll add it to the string, okay? What's our next string? Kristen, what's the next string?
Current homeowners existing update, lower left-hand corner, it's purple, it's covered by.
That might be the apartment one, just.
Oh, is that the, oh, okay, that's the apartment,
Loan-
okay. my
Loans for
bad.
current apartment owners, that's different, right?
I'm gonna pick one of the ones on down payment assistance.
That's right here.
All right, yeah.
Down payment assistance cooperating with local businesses with matching funds. Is
Mhm.
that, are we in the same ballpark?
Yeah, and then with down payment assistance for community help. Wait, I wasn't supposed to
Helpers.
pick two, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I picked
Straight down,
two.
Todd, right below the one you just tagged on the right, down payment.
right here,
Yeah.
down payment for first-time home buyers, okay? Anybody have another one that they see at this point? I'm gonna keep us cracking though, so Chris, you're welcome to pick a new string. But do call out if you see something I need to stick over on either of these.
Land purchase, land bank.
Down the bottom.
Land purchase, land bank,
Bottom.
land bank. We got two, are there any others?
I think that was kind of going for with the integrated neighborhood one, even though it was worded really poorly. Yeah, that one.
So this says integrated options for senior
And affordable.
and more affordable, like teachers, within new developments to benefit from neighborhood amenities. Is this land banking or is this something different? It seems like more. I
It's
would-
not land banking.
It's more
not land
zoning, okay.
banking, Okay. Anything else related to this one? I'll stick this up. David, do you want to pick another string, another theme? Can you see them okay? Sorry, Nyla, my
It's okay.
back's. Can I help? We use the word integrated a few times. So here we have integrated senior housing and developments. Tricia, you had integrated options for seniors. Or am I on?
Yep.
All right, I want to make sure. Are there any other elements of neighborhood integration in any of these?
Mixed use,
I think that was closer to the last one for the.
Mixed use
Connectivity.
connectivity within commercial areas, mixed use, does this relate?
Who had
Let's see,
the?
this was the same writing.
I think, Jeff, did you have the one that you had connectivity and being close to downtown or being close to amenities? No,
No,
still-
it's-
you, oh, you had that one, yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's closer to that one, wherever that is.
Probably read it.
Aware of location, the bottom or second to the, from the right. Aware of location
Location.
for
Second one
affordable
from the right,
housing
Todd.
and walking.
Right in front of you. Stop.
Am I?
Second, bottom,
Right there.
right there.
go. Yep,
Aware.
Yep, those two.
Aware of location issues for affordable housing.
And that goes with mixed use
Yeah.
connectivity.
This goes with mixed use?
Nope, down, it was right next to the one that it goes with.
On the
The
second up.
green one,
Oh,
yeah.
oh. Am I in the right place?
Yep.
Is this a new string?
Sure.
We might say at some point that a couple of the strings are close enough that maybe we combine the strings, and that's okay. Improve existing stock that's aging with loans or grants. Don't we have something?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
first one on the right.
Is that this guy here?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, all right, good. See, we're uncovering stuff that can get cleaned up. Loans for current core residents for improvements. Does that relate here too? Is that the same or not?
Probably.
I think
Yep.
it works.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, this was yours. I don't wanna,
Yes, it's trying to improve existing housing stock.
okay?
That's the right where it goes.
Yeah,
That's what
okay,
I-
all right. Loans for current apartment owners. Family affordability, 2 to 3 bedroom, family affordability, and facilitating education. Do any of these three fall anywhere? Are they
Would the facilitate education go towards the down payment? Could it be part of that program?
Yeah.
If it's
feel like
like
that
almost
would
like a
all work together.
requirement to go through in order to be eligible? Is that,
It's a piece of it, but we
Yeah.
heard in many other programs,
yeah,
I can't remember the lady's name from the state that had 3 or 4 different options. It's just, how do we connect people is what, it's
So
very
you don't
low.
see that fitting there necessarily,
No,
okay. Disagreement's okay, we're still friends.
Fine.
Are these three standing out uniquely different, and it's okay if they do?
I think so.
Okay, well, I think if we're looking to achieve agreement, the longer the string should suggest to you that as a CDA, you're hovering towards agreement in those areas. You've obviously got 1, 2, and then you've got a smattering that have a couple each. And I guess my question is, whether any of these ought to connect with an existing string, or if it's good as is. Are there any?
I would wonder, so the loans for apartments, we might not, with this current TID closing, have enough to do the loans for apartments to update existing units. But I feel like that could be related to the loans for individual residences. Like if we're improving stock in general, we might want to consider the experiences of our folks in older apartments. I don't know if that's too much overlap, Gary, for what you intended.
No, all I'm trying to get to is, you're not gonna draw somebody who, they can't afford the lamp house, but they go into Division Street and they can say, well, I can afford this, but I'm not gonna live here because it's run down, it's a place I wouldn't live. So if you can keep that existing apartment stock,
Yeah.
I think in nicer shape, I think you can allow people. That's-
So I would just say, is that more a matter of building inspector versus, I mean.
I mean, it's just kinda like
the
down by
residents
Rex's
don't-
down here in Vegas or whatever, they took some trees down, they put new siding on, they've really cleaned that up to make it look, I'm not sure what they've done interior to it, but, an apartment that's 40 years old doesn't look so great inside if they've never spent a penny on it.
It's hard to address because you're not talking about the homeowner again. Now you're talking
Yeah.
about a landlord in a for-profit
Right.
thing, so it's a little more difficult for us to,
But those are the
harder for
people-
me to justify.
The hard part is, those are the people we don't get here. We don't get the apartment people here. I mean, there's no way they can afford a house, but let's say they're a teacher that's making 40 grand a year, they can afford an apartment, but they can't afford the lamp house, so what's their other choice? So I wish we could update our, what I would say, our lower market rate apartments to make them more, appealing to people.
How do you tie accountability to the landlord for improving those, to make them more?
And can we?
Alright.
Can
I'm gonna
we?
push rigor in the process. This isn't because what any of you are saying is not good information, but it's a next step. So, and none of these disappear just because we're putting them on the side table for now. They're not disappearing. And Tim's gonna make an electronic version of these outcomes, I'm sure, because he's a very astute community development director serving all of you. So, again, and I also want to respect your time, we can move to a couple primaries.
We're gonna stop. We have a 7:30 stop time for
Oh.
our committee.
Oh, it is 7:30.
So that's.
Well, let me ask-
We established that as one of our criteria right off the bat, so.
Let me ask, how do you feel about where we've gone today? Is this
I just suggest that if Tim puts that together, is there a way for us to electronically prioritize in that way,
well,
or
you
is that
can't
outside of our?
individually, Jeff, but you can't as a
Can't as a group.
CDA outside of a publicly
Outside,
posted
but
meeting.
that's.
So I think what you're getting at, Jeff, is that, Jeff, I think what you're getting at is just the preparation before we meet. So you've already
Yeah.
prioritized what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just fine.
Yeah, this helps.
Tim, I would also suggest.
Individually, that's okay,
Oh,
we can't
yes.
interact together.
Yep.
Yeah, I would also suggest with Al not being here, that you reach out to Al with the same questions and have him provide you with 3. Just like he doesn't know what we've said here as well, so then we can have his input for the next meeting as well.
Yeah.
in
Fair
front
enough,
of us.
and he might fall on a couple strings, or he might have some new ones too, right?
Correct.
But I think I see some priorities for us at our very next meeting, and we'll continue this facilitation process.
Thank you.
Okay,
Perfect.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
And I was able to hold us for 7:30.
Good
I'm
job.
really excited.
I move that we adjourn.
Motion made and seconded. I'm gonna give it to Gary. I heard his
Yeah.
voice first. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thanks, everybody.
Kristen, am I hired by the extension?
You are so.